All right, so my name is Barbara Horn, and I'm with Athletes United for Peace. Right here is Dr. Philip Shinnick. He is an Olympian, activist, rebel rouser, and founder of Athletes United for Peace. And we'd like to welcome you to Girls Must Play. So this is a conversation on the power of sports in the lives of women and girls. We have a lot to talk about today. And we're going to take a look at some things like Title IX. Have you guys heard of Title IX? Okay, everybody's shaking their head. So we have some panelists that have a lot to share about that. And to kick us off and get us started and move us forward, we have our dynamic moderator, Ms. Jayne Kennedy Overton. She came all the way out from California.
Yes.
Woo! Yes.
Sometimes it feels like another. You're from California? Good for you. Okay.
Now, Jayne was the first African-American co-host of CBS.
Sports anchor.
Sports anchor.
Of the CBS
NFL Today.
Right.
Yes. She also has a lot of accomplishments that include an Emmy nomination for her work on the DMZ and North Korea. Yes. And she has 4 amazing daughters who are also involved in education and sports.
Yes.
And they have a new initiative going on, and it's called...
Well, we had partnered with the Let Girls Learn, Michelle Obama's foundation, for equity and access to education. And that's one of the things that I'm seriously an advocate for, 100%, 150% equity for access in education, equity for access in sports.
Yes. So she will be chiming in with all of our amazing panelists, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
The day that my daughter I went to go pick her up. She was in maybe 7th grade, and she had already won a state championship at basketball. And I went to pick her up, and it was raining, and she was sitting on the steps, soaking wet. And I wasn't late. I was on time. I couldn't understand why she was sitting there. And I said, "What happened? Did they call off practice?" She said, "No, it started to rain, and the boys got the gym, and the girls were sent home." And I hit the roof. And I said, no way. Boys got the gym and the girls were sent home. And ever since that day, I've been advocating for access to women in sports.
It is, and especially for a country like Turkey, which is a secular Muslim country, and where girls have certain, growing up, the gender differences, the roles you have is really heavily on your shoulders. So having a support from my family, especially from my father, I think that was the main reason that I stayed with sports. Otherwise, I wouldn't.
I decided I was going to become a coach because there weren't that many lady coaches. And the rest has led me now to 40 years later that coaching girls is a critical responsibility. I'm never going to say that men shouldn't coach girls, but I am going to say that girls should coach girls when they can. Because there are things that men don't have a sensibility about when it comes to being a woman. And I relied on my older teammates for that. Your bag had to have all of your feminine supplies and all this and that. And if any older teammate looked in your bag and you didn't have everything you were supposed to have, you got in trouble. But what that really meant was that there's some women looking out for me. And that meant a lot. So.
And after 8 years of touting all over the country, playing tournaments and all of that. And, she was a goalie. So every 2 weeks she had to buy new goalie gloves and all this gear that the club didn't provide for the girls, but did for the boys, And so all those years. And then she got the opportunity to play in college. And she said, "I'm not going to do it." And I was, "What?" She said, "No." She said, "Because I'd rather graduate from USC with a degree that says that I'm smart and I can get paid rather than graduating as one of the college players, athletes, and I don't get paid because the female goalies have maybe 2 opportunities to go pro once you're out of college, because there's not very many teams. And then those teams are not offering salaries that are even able to live on."
Exactly.
So, and I said, how can I argue with that? But she gave up the opportunity to play simply because there was no money to be made as a professional.
Right.
And, the fact that people have opportunities, there's such a huge gap in the difference of the salaries of men soccer around the world, not just the U.S., and women's soccer.
one of the issues that I work on is school segregation. And so when I think about Title IX and equitable funding for sports or programs, I don't see that we can't separate that from the fact that our schools are still racially segregated. And what does that mean for Black girls? What does that mean for girls of color who are now disadvantaged across gender and race lines? And there's actually a lawsuit right now in New York City challenging the unequal distribution of sports teams among public schools. My personal commitment is to write women back into our public narratives about how we have been involved in sports. Yeah. And so just for one tidbit, the first documented case of an athlete not standing for the national anthem was a Black woman. Her name was Rose Robinson.